Welcome to the Willard Morrison channel. Today, I would like to introduce you to the story, Omega's Return. Author, Omega's Return. Read by, Willard Morrison. Part 1 Info. The meteors came crashing down at lightning speed, destroying everything in their path. After a few minutes of meteors falling from the sky, everything seemed quiet until Carbide and his team saw the holographic table pop up showing that a meteor broke into Moisty Maya prison, releasing their sworn enemy, Omega. They all gathered around the table looking at the holographic map. Carbide: a meteor has destroyed Moisty Maya prison, unleashing our sworn enemy, Omega. We need to find him and recapture him before he does something to hurt civilians. Squad leader raises his eyebrow, noticing Carbide seemed frustrated about Omega being free again. Valor: I agree, we should find him soon. Steel grits her teeth in disgust. Steel: Omega is going to be in a lot of pain when I get my hands on him. Squad leader: whoa Steel, calm down. Carbide can hardly beat Omega on his own. That doesn't mean you can as well. If I remember correctly, you can't even lay a punch on Carbide. He is still way too quick for you. Squad leader grins at Steel, who just huffs and walks away. Going upstairs, Carbide pulled a grin under that mask of his, knowing that squad leader is right about that. Carbide: well, my weapon is still broken from the last fight I encountered Omega. I need to work on its repairs. Carbide leaves the table to the armory to repair his weapon. Squad leader noticed Valor still standing there staring at the map. She looks unhappy, as if someone broke her heart in two. Squad leader: hey Valor. Valor faces squad leader with her sad expression. Squad leader: don't worry, we will capture Omega again. I suggest you rest for now. After all, the meteors did just stop. We will start hunting Omega in the morning. Valor nodded her head in agreement. She headed upstairs to her living quarters. Valor sat on her bed thinking, Valor, everything is in the past now, I must focus what lies ahead. Valor laid down resting. Squad leader had a feeling something was wrong with Valor. She seemed more unhappy than usual ever since we imprisoned Omega and now since he escaped. Maybe she just gets this sad vibe from Omega and displays it? I don't know what this superpowers these people have, I lost count. Squad leader also decided to take a rest for the night. Carbide was struggling repairing his weapon. He doesn't need sleep, so he works on it all night to repair it. Steel came downstairs and sees Carbide repairing his weapon. She decides to help him to increase the rate of it being fully functional. Part 2 His Escape. Omega sat quietly in his cell as he always does until he heard alarms and what sounded like buildings crashing down. Omega's cell shook like the rest of the building did. He grinned under his mask, knowing that the meteors everyone in the prison talked about have arrived and came crashing down. However, he didn't flinch or show any type of fear that he would be crushed. He only shot his head to the left, hearing bricks collapse. Omega saw the wall in his cell collapse. He got up off the bench he sat on and walked towards it. Once outside, he noticed everyone running and fire was everywhere. It didn't concern him at all. It is as if he does not care about a meteor crashing down on him. He calmly walked out his broken cell. Omega: I am free and I'm coming for you, Carbide, and once you're out of the way I will blow up this island. He stumbled upon the crater in the prison. He looked around, seeing everyone is gone and most of the place is smashed to rubble. He skid down to the bottom of the crater. He noticed a purple levitating rock in front of him. He picked it up and held it, inspecting it. Omega: I wonder. Omega started to break the rock in his hand. In doing so and successfully breaking it, a purple glow emitted off of his body and he could feel himself lighter than a feather. Omega: I must leave this place in search of my weapon and rebuild my army to take down Carbide and his team. Omega clenched his fist but then stopped when thinking of one person he knows and still loves, but he is unsure if she still feels the same for him. Omega pushed his feelings aside and started running off with high jumps. He has a lot to do and can't let anything get in his way, anything. Omega managed to leave the prison before someone would come looking for him. He got far away and walked into a farm. Omega: before I go anywhere else, let's have some fun. Omega sees a men playfully sparring each other with guns. Omega found it as a perfect opportunity to please his need to kill, since he has been stuck in a prison for a long time. Omega returns to his hidden lair. Eventually he notices it has not been touched in a while due to all the dust laying around and also the cobwebs. Omega: time to get started. Omega grew a grin knowing that everything was going perfectly, but for now he needed his rest for the next day. Part 3 Old Friends. In early morning Omega was working on the computers and around the lair until he thought about someone who helped him, someone that resembled a Venus flytrap. Omega, our flytrap. I hope you're still alive, Omega typed into the computers, bringing up a tracker that was with flytrap in case they split up. Omega watched the red dot flicker and beep at Haunted Hills, moving slowly out of it to unknown house in the middle of tall trees. Omega, I'm coming, my old friend. Omega grabbed his weapon, the Omega's pickaxe, and walked out of his lair heading into the forest towards the red dot. Omega saw Flytrap commanding people to pick up crates and move them back to Haunted. Omega, well, still back at taking over mines, I see. Old friend Flytrap turned around and saw Omega. Flytrap, Omega, I never thought I would see you again, and yes, I need them to move the meteor metal since there is so much left behind. Omega came up to Flytrap. Omega, meteors crashed down on the prison, allowing me to escape unharmed. Carbide and his team must already know of my absence. Flytrap, I haven't noticed much change in you, Omega. I like it now, everything is still according to plan, we just need faster workers, these ones are too slow, we can use this spare metal to recreate the army. Omega, good. Flytrap, follow me, my lord. Omega followed Flytrap to his lair. Once they arrived, they ordered the people under Flytrap's control to bring the metal back to Omega's secret lair where they can rebuild the army to put Carbide and his team down and conquer the island. After a few hours, Flytrap found 2 heat signatures a few miles away from Tyler. Flytrap, Lord Omega, there appears to be 2 unknown heat signatures nearby. Do you want me to check up on it? Omega was a little rusty at combat, he wanted to work up on it. Omega, no, let me deal with it, I want to see people suffer by my doing, I've been caged too long. Flytrap, make sure everything is done before I get back, don't disappoint me. Flytrap, yes my lord. Omega grabbed his weapon and headed out to fight the 2 people nearby. Once he was close enough, he could hear 2 very familiar voices. He hid and looked in the distance. He saw Squad Leader and her. They split up and Squad Leader was heading to Omega's direction and the other one went the exact opposite. Omega couldn't believe it. After all the years of being caged up, he finally saw the love of his life. He shook his head and turned it towards Squad Leader, who was heading his way. Pushing his emotions aside, he focused on taking down Squad Leader. At least that means one can be scratched off the list, until he started thinking, how is he going to kill the team if one of them is his love? Part 4 Clashing. Squad Leader kept moving in the direction Omega was in, but he had no idea Omega was there until he got ambushed with a powerful knockback, sending him flying into a nearby rock. The impact was rough and Squad Leader took a deep breath from that. Once he recovered, he looked up, seeing Omega approach him. Squad Leader, what a punch, Omega, and here I thought you wouldn't show up. Squad Leader got back onto his feet and held his eye at Omega. Omega, that puny weapon won't save you. Squad Leader, oh, how I'm going to enjoy scratching you off the list. Squad Leader, oh, I bet you would love that. Here's the thing, Omega, you will never win against me. Squad Leader started firing at Omega, but the bullets did nothing to him and he just witnessed Omega laughing at him. Squad Leader, what in the? How is this possible? You've had that amount of power before. Omega grinned under his mask. He then lifted up his hand towards Squad Leader, making it a fist, and a red beam appeared, burning everything it touched. It managed to hit Squad Leader in time before he could build a wall, resulting in a critical state and he can't fight back. Omega chuckled darkly and walked up to him and saw fear in his eyes. Omega weak. Omega was about to bring his pickaxe down on him until it got stopped by a flashing red and silver object with a loud cling sound. Omega traced the object that appeared to be a very familiar axe. Then his eyes landed on her, the Valor herself, the one he once loved, and questions why he still does and if she still does. Whatever the case, she was right there with an expression that looked pissed off. She let out a battle cry, kicked the stunned Omega, then moved her axe away from his and swung it at full force at him, sending him flying off to the distance. Seeing him drop his weapon when making impact with the ground below, Valor aided Squad Leader quickly. Valor, here, take this, then contact HQ that we found him. I'll hold him off. Squad Leader knew she could handle it, so he did exactly what she told him. He quickly built up and launch paded out of the battle back to HQ. Valor turned her attention back to Omega. Will he kill her or something else? That replayed in her head. Omega stood up again, grabbed his pickaxe and looked at Vala. She kept a straight but angry face towards him. Omega, however, was stunned. He didn't move but stare at her. Vala put her weapon away and walked up to Omega, knowing that he won't do anything once right in front of him. Omega didn't move. Instead, he put his weapon away as well. Vala, long time no see. Omega was about to say something until a green gas bomb appeared in between them. It exploded, causing Vala to cough, but Omega could not due to his mask. As the smoke cleared, he watched but also panicked for Vala. She looked super dizzy. She started falling backwards, passing out, but Omega caught her in time. Flytrap walked up to them. Flytrap, I'm sorry for disobeying you, my lord, but I had a feeling you needed assistance. Omega glared at Flytrap but then turned his attention back to Vala. Omega, let's bring her along. I'm sure she can answer a few questions. Part 5 Unknown. Vala woke up in a dark room, chained up. The chains clinged on the ground when she moved. Vala couldn't see anything. She also felt her head was in pain, most probably from that gas bomb that was thrown at her and Omega. Vala stood up straight away, remembering that she was in front of Omega after she found him nearly killing squad leader. More pain rushed through her head. She groaned against it, shaking her head slightly. Omega, sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen to you. Vala stopped and looked around, hearing an unfamiliar voice. She still couldn't see anything. Vala, show yourself. Omega sighed. He was not far from Vala. He was in front of her, but due to the fact he turned the lights off on his body, he could not be seen. Once he slowly put them back on from toe to head, Vala at first got a fright and moved backwards, unsure, until she spotted who it was. Vala. Omega. Omega stood still looking at her. Omega. Vala. This time it was Vala who was stunned, seeing Omega clearly changed a bit. But God, did he take steroids or something? He is a lot more buff than before. Vala looked around. Since Omega's body shined up the place, she saw a bed and 2 doors, one behind Omega and one next to her. Omega, I see you have become stronger than before. Vala, you did quite the punch on me earlier. Vala turned to face Omega. Her eyes were locked onto his visor. Vala, well, I knew I could never defeat you. I had to at least save squad leader. He is a good friend but can get cocky sometimes. Omega huffed while crossing his arms. Omega, I saw both of you nearby and decided to ambush. Clearly it failed. Vala narrowed her eyes for a second at Omega. Vala, wait, if you saw both of us, why did you go for him instead of me? Omega feared to tell the truth to her to why he went for squad leader instead of her, because he could have taken another direction to end up in Vala's path. Omega, he was closer than you and was heading in my direction. Vala looked away from Omega in a sad manner, but it then turned to anger. Vala, you should have let me die by your sidekick. I knew the gas bomb was lethal without treatment. Omega shook his head slightly. Omega, I can never let you die. Vala. Vala, then why do you still keep me here? For the pain I have to endure every second of every day, knowing that you left us to dominate the island just to have so much power. You left me. Vala was at the verge of letting her emotions out, but she held them in, looking away from Omega. Omega uncrossed his arms, feeling guilt and regret swoop him until he pushed it aside and watched as Vala was softly crying, letting out tears. Omega reached his hand towards her face and wiped a tear away from her cheek, which made her turn her attention back to him. Omega, Vala, the only thing that has never changed about me is that I still... Omega paused, looking into her. He swore he just saw a light spark in them. Vala, still what? Omega let out a grunt and moved away from Vala and exited the room, leaving her confused. Vala could now see the room a bit more clear since a dim light was on, but what was Omega going to say in the end? It will remain unknown for now. Part 6 Loved. Flytrap wanted to interrogate the prisoner Vala, but Omega would not allow it, which gave him suspicions about the two. Vala sat on the bedboard as ever since there was nothing to do, but she still wondered what Omega was trying to say about something in him never changed. What could that be? It puzzled her mind like crazy until she heard someone enter the room. She turned her head in the direction of the door. Since it was black, you can't see anything there. Thinking it's Omega, she turned her attention away from him. Vala, save it, I don't want to hear it. Omega. It's only been 3 hours when we last spoke. I thought you would bored by now. Vala huffed but didn't face him. Vala, and why should you care? We are enemies, not allies. Omega grunted at himself. Omega, you want to know the truth to why I have no intention to kill you? I might sound crazy, but Omega walked closer to Valor, catching her attention. Omega, Valor, I still love you. Valor was shocked hearing that from Omega. She was not expecting him to confess, yet alone still be in love with her. She stuttered words. She saw Omega shake his head left and right, turning around about to walk away. Omega didn't like confessing he still loves her, and judging by her expressions she doesn't feel the same towards him anymore. He turned around about to walk away but was stopped by a gentle hand holding his wrist. He turned his attention back to Valor but was surprised when she pulled him into half a hug. Feeling her this close made his heart race with joy, but what was confusing is why her face was right on his mask until he realized she was planting a kiss where his lips would be and that her eyes were closed. Omega put his arms around Valor. Feeling loved from her once more is the best thing that could have ever happened since he escaped. Part 7 Almost Caught. Valor pulled away from Omega but was still in a hug with him. He seemed stunned and confused. Omega, Valor, I. Valor giggled, spotting her lip mark on his mask. She reached for it and wiped it off, then looked into Omega's visor. She was about to reach and grab it to take it off to see his face, but his hands held hers in place. Omega, you won't like what you see under this mask of mine. I'm not the same. Valor, I don't mind what you look like. Omega, I still love you and always will. May I remove your mask? Omega nodded yes slightly towards her. Valor gently felt around his helmet to find the release to take it off. Once she found it and took it off, she was greeted with another mask, but he had no mouth. His face was covered and his eyes pure red. Valor was shocked with worry. Valor, my love, what happened to your face? Valor gently felt around his face. It felt like metal and synthetic fibers. Omega huffed in pride of being right that she would react this way. Omega, after the final fight with Carbide all those years ago, my body got heavily damaged. I had to make my own repairs, and this is what I am now and will always be. Told you, you wouldn't like it. Valor cupped both of his synthetic cheeks and rubbed his upper cheeks with her thumbs. Valor, Omega, I still love you. You're still handsome to me. Valor states her truth to him. Omega was once again feeling truly happy knowing that Valor still has feelings for him as he does for her. Omega put his forehead against hers, seeing her have a sweet smile and closed eyes. Omega then realized the restraints he had on her and the extremely dark room he put her in. He broke the restraints around her wrists, setting her free. Valor got a fright, feeling Omega break the restraints. She could properly hug him now and move more freely. Omega, I will set you free. Valor. Valor overloaded Omega with kisses after hearing that she kissed his cheeks, where his lips would be, and neck. Omega, but no one can know where I hide, not even you. I'm sorry, I can't risk it. Valor felt a sting in her arm. She pulled away and looked at her arm, seeing a small syringe. She pulled it out, then looked at Omega with hazy eyesight. She collapsed into Omega, immediately falling into a deep sleep. Omega, oh how I've missed you so much. Valor. I hope we meet again. Omega set her on the bed gently, then put his helmet on. Flytrap entered the interrogation room, seeing the prisoner unchained and asleep on her makeshift bed. Flytrap, my lord, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem. Omega turned his attention to Flytrap. Omega was angry at Flytrap for interrupting, but since it was important it had to be done. Omega, what is it, Flytrap? Flytrap got a fright from Omega's angry voice. It almost sounded protective and frustrated. Flytrap: 2 people have been spotted nearby in the same area where we found her, but I have never seen these 2 before, my lord. Omega, show me. Flytrap nods, then leaves the room. Omega turned to Valor. He walked up to her, then put a fur blanket on her. Hopefully if she wakes up she will stay there and not escape. Omega was relieved that they didn't get caught. He takes one last look at her before he closes the door. Part 8 The Bros. Rogue Dude Carbide said she would be here. We need to find her. Wingman cracked his knuckles and neck. Wing yee, I know we need to find her. I just can't wait to have some action. Rogue put a hand on Wingman's shoulder, shaking his head. No, Rogue, no, we are ordered to find her and bring her back. No fighting. Did you even listen to Carbide of what Omega can do? He is not a guy we want to mess with. Wingman sighs. Wing, fine. But next mission we are having a fight. Rogue nodded yes to Wingman. They both put on their disguise bushes, Bush Squad, and left the area in search of Valor, who has been missing for 22 hours after squad leader last saw her. Omega and Flytrap saw the 2 walk away in their disguise. Omega tch, and here I thought there would be more of a fight than squad leader. Flytrap, take care of them, they are a waste of my time, I'll be talking to the prisoner. Flytrap rubbed his hands together in a menacing way. Flytrap will do, my lord. Flytrap sneaked around following the two while Omega headed back to the lair. Omega got back to the lair and headed straight to Valor. He found her still asleep, Omega still beautiful even in sleep. Omega removed the blanket from her and picked her up in a bridal style. He watched as she shifted around to make herself comfortable in his arms. Once she was comfortable, she had her arms around him almost in a cuddle-like way. Omega walked out the cell towards the exit of the lair. Once he was outside, he took one last look at Valor asleep in his arms, then looked ahead and walked off into the distance, hoping no one spots him and that he could get some info from her once they were far enough away from his lair, plus when she is awake, of course. Flytrap stalked the two men for a while until he decided to take action. He threw his gas bombs at them, causing them to ditch their bush disguises, grab their weapons and shoot at Flytrap. They managed to heavily wound Flytrap, but Rogue got knocked out by the gas, struggling to breath and coughed a lot. Wingman managed to drag Rogue out of the gas unharmed. He tried to aid his friend but nothing was working. Flytrap decided to retreat, seeing that he didn't heavily wound both of them and that he was more hurt than them. Flytrap, I'll get you next time. Flytrap retreats back to the lair, leaving the two men behind. Wingman saw nothing was working. He decided to call for backup. Wingman Carbide. If you get this message, we need immediate backup. We were attacked by a plant man. He messed up Rogue pretty bad. Nothing I have is working to aid him. I have sent you my cords, please hurry. Carbide was standing with Steel and Battlehawk in the meeting area talking about future actions that might occur until they got Wingman's message. Battlehawk, plant man, what does he mean by a plant man? Steel slammed her fist into her hand. Steel, Flytrap, that's the plant man he is talking about when I get my hands on him. Carbide grabbed his pickaxe and faced both of them. Carbide, come on, Wingman and Rogue need our help, let's go before it's too late. They head out to aid Wingman and Rogue and hopefully find Valor along the way. Part 9, Purple Eyes. Omega carried Valor far away from his lair. He was close to Fatal Fields. Feeling movement in his arms, he looked down, stopping in his tracks and watched Valor stir awake. She shifted and wiggled around in his arms, feeling uncomfortable. Once she opened up her eyes, she was greeted with a red-lighted visor staring at her. Valor, Omega. Valor panicked, not knowing what happened. Omega put Valor onto her feet and stopped holding her. Omega, I knocked you out. Valor was confused. Omega tilted his head in confusion. Omega, you do not remember? Valor shook her head in disbelief. She took steps back away from Omega and grabbed her pickaxe, pointing it at him. Omega got into a defensive stance when he held his pickaxe handle. One thing he noticed was Valor had purple coloring in her eyes, which is strange. He has never seen that before, and to make it worse, Valor charged at Omega relentlessly. She was in a savage rampage towards him. Omega was so confused and worried for Valor to act like this. However, all her attacking attempts were just blocked off with ease. Omega, Valor, stop. This is getting ridiculous. Valor didn't say a word, she just kept attacking him. She did manage to stab her pickaxe through his chest plate, but it didn't penetrate his actual body. Omega was shocked, but has now had enough. He hooked his pickaxe with hers and with a powerful pull he yanked her pickaxe with his and threw it aside. He then put his arms around her, trying to get her to calm down, but that didn't work since she hit him in the face with the back of her head, causing him to loosen his grip and then get kicked in his abdomen, getting pushed back slightly from her force in the kick. She then tried to kick again, but Omega grabbed her leg and threw her into the nearby mountain, making her unconscious. Omega worried and ran up to her and knelt down next to her unconscious body. He starts to wonder if this was all his fault for giving her the substance to make her sleep, maybe that caused her to be so relentless. Omega, you were so relentless in fighting me and you also forgot what happened? Omega was about to pick her up, but he noticed someone he did not wish to see. For a while he sighed in annoyance when standing up straight and looked in the direction where Carbide was standing on a cliff's edge. He ran off from the cliff and used his glider to get close to them on the ground safely. Omega, well, I sent this a surprise. I was hoping to never see you again. Carbide. Carbide clenched his fist when seeing Valalim on the ground. He then turned his attention back to Omega. Carbide, same here Omega, I was hoping for you to rot in a cell for the rest of your life. Clearly the universe had other plans for us both. Carbide was slowly making his way closer to Omega with the intention of taking him down. Omega crossed his arms and huffed at Carbide attempts of intimidation, but what both of them didn't realize is that they were being watched. Part 10 Escape. Omega had no time to fight. He had to continue on with his plans to destroy the island. He knows that the rocket he built was just enough to destroy the most popular place, Tilted Towers. Omega had an idea when he laid his eyes on Vala. He walked up to her and picked her up by the back of her neck. He gripped her clothes/uniform with one hand and lifted her up with ease. Omega faced Carbide, seeing him stop in his tracks. Omega, I wouldn't get any closer, Carbide. Unless you want your precious friend dead. Carbide worried for Vala. She looked so weak from fighting. She has wounds as well, but they were not so severe. Carbide, it doesn't have to be like this, brother. Put Vala down and come with us peacefully. We don't want anyone getting hurt. Omega sensed the presence of two other people hiding being a thick and large rock. Steel and Battlehawk came out of their hiding spot near Carbide. Steel, Omega, what have you done with Vala? Put her down now. Steel grabbed her R out and Battlehawk followed, pulling his scar out. Battlehawk, you heard Steel. Put our friend down, then you won't get hurt much. Both Steel and Battlehawk aimed their guns at Omega. Omega, you want me to put her down? Carbide had a bad feeling that Omega was going to kill Vala. Carbide, no, stop. Carbide reached out his hand, then started running towards Carbide. Omega had no choice for what he had to do to escape. Omega, forgive me, Vala. Omega held onto Vala tightly, then with all of his might he threw Vala into the sky a few meters directly above Carbide. Carbide saw Vala flying directly above him. He used his energy to jump high enough to reach her in time, grabbing her, then landing on his feet with a wonky first step, but then balanced. Carbide looked all over Vala. She seemed alright from up close, but she was still unconscious. He looked up and watched Omega crush a purple rock in his hand and laugh. Steel and Battlehawk fired at Omega, but the bullets did nothing to him. Omega, now you will see true power. Farewell. Brother. Omega vanished with only a trail of purple that quickly faded away. Steel and Battlehawk went up to Carbide to check on Vala. Steel, Carbide. Is Vala okay? Carbide looked up at Steel and Battlehawk. Carbide, yes, she is. Steel, please take her back to HQ. Me and Battlehawk still need to get to Wingman and Rogue Agent. Steel nodded, but then they all looked in the direction coughing was faintly being heard. Wingman guys. We're over here. Steel went straight for HQ while Carbide and Battlehawk ran towards Wingman and Rogue. Wingman was carrying Rogue, who didn't look too well. Rogue couldn't walk at all and his breathing was slow and short. Carbide took Rogue out of Wingman's arms. Just as he did, Wingman nearly fell over, but Battlehawk caught him and put Wingman's arm over his shoulder. Wingman THX Battlehawk. My leg is jacked up and Rogue can't do anything. We couldn't wait for you any longer. That plant man wanted to attack us again for the third time. Carbide, it is good to see you both in one piece. Hopefully we can heal Rogue of Flytrap's poison. Come on, we must wait no more time. Carbide and the others started heading for HQ, but Carbide ran faster, leaving Wingman and Battlehawk behind in hopes to save Rogue Agent the quicker he gets to HQ. To be continued.